Hi everyone and welcome. Today, we are jumping into a topic that really affects every single one of us, intercultural communication. And we're going to look at it through the lens of these invisible webs that pretty much shape how we see the world and, of course, each other.
So, let me ask you this. Have you ever been in a situation where you say one thing, the other person hears something totally different, and before you know it, this tiny little miscommunication has just snowballed into a massive problem? Yeah, we've all been there. It's a universal and, let's be honest, super frustrating experience.
Okay, but what happens when that communication gap isn't just about two different personalities? What if it's blown wide open by completely different cultural assumptions, deeply held beliefs, and entire worldviews? Well, that's when a simple misunderstanding can escalate into a really significant, deeply personal conflict.
And that's exactly where the study of intercultural communication becomes so important. So today, we're going to dive into it using this really powerful metaphor, the idea that all of us are living inside these webs of significance that we ourselves create.
So what in the world are these webs? Well, to understand that, we have to start with the absolute foundation, the definition of culture itself.
This amazing quote comes from an anthropologist named Clifford Geertz, and he had this pretty revolutionary idea, right? He said culture isn't some external thing we just learn about. No, he saw it as the very webs of significance that we spin for ourselves. We are, as he put it, literally suspended in the meanings that we create.
Just think about what that really means for a second. Culture isn't just the stuff we can see on the outside. You know, the food, the flags, the music, the festivals. At its core, culture is the shared knowledge and beliefs that exist inside us, in our hearts and minds. All those things we can see, they're just the products of this invisible, internal world of meaning. Okay, so if culture is this complex, internal, mental web, how on earth do you even begin to study it? Well, that exact question has sparked this huge, fascinating debate in the field, basically splitting researchers into two very different camps. So on one side, you have what's called the inside view, or the IMIC approach. This is the world of ethnography, where researchers will literally immerse themselves in a single culture to try and understand its unique meanings. Think of a researcher living in a Japanese village for a year just to grasp the deep social importance of every single bow. Then on the other side, you have the outside view, or the EDIC approach. This is more classic social science, where you compare many cultures to find universal patterns or laws. That same researcher might instead survey greeting rituals in 50 different countries to figure out how many use a handshake versus something else. As you can probably guess, with two totally different philosophies like these, both approaches have gotten their fair share of criticism. The people who favor the inside view, well, they argue that the outside social science approach is seriously flawed. They say a researcher's own biases can totally box in the results. They'll argue that what you find in some controlled lab setting might mean nothing in the real world. And by focusing so much on numbers, you can totally miss the rich, important details that you just can't quantify. And you risk ignoring human choice altogether.
But, oh yeah, the social scientists fire right back. They'll say, hey, an ethnographer's personal assumptions are just as biased, maybe even more so. They question how you can possibly make big generalizations based on what just one person observed. And they point out that ethnographers also have to pick and choose what details they focus on. The big takeaway here is that neither side is perfect. Both face some really fundamental challenges.
So who wins the debate? Well, it turns out neither of them. The best, most effective intercultural research usually recognizes that you actually need both. You need that rich, detailed story from the inside, and you need the big picture, pattern-seeking analysis from the outside. Ultimately, good research should be driven by the question you're trying to answer, not by some rigid loyalty to one particular method. Now, to really see why picking the right approach isn't just some stuffy academic exercise, let's move away from the abstract world of methodology and look at a powerful, real-world story that shows why all of this matters so much. This case study dives into the intense struggles inside an immigrant Sunni Muslim family living in Miami. I mean, it is a perfect, heartbreaking example of how the cultural webs of the old country can clash violently with the webs of a new one. This is exactly the kind of situation where a purely outside view might completely miss the deep, personal meanings that are driving the whole conflict. So, from the parents' point of view, the situation is absolutely terrifying. They look at their children and see them losing respect for their traditions, for their religion. They are genuinely scared by what they see as the moral dangers of a more liberal American society. And in their minds, threatening to send them back is the only way they can protect their kids and their family's very identity.
But for the children, the world looks completely, totally different. All they see are their American friends enjoying freedoms that they are being denied. Their goal isn't to disrespect their parents. It's just this deep human need to fit in, to experience life like their friends do, to, just be American. And then, caught right in the crossfire, is the mother. She can see a path to freedom not just for her kids, but for herself. But she knows that trying to take that path could mean leaving her husband, a choice that would get her completely rejected by her entire extended family, the very web that holds her world together. So she's trapped, just stuck in this impossible choice between her children's future and her own survival within her community.
This family's story, it's not just a sad anecdote. It is a crystal clear illustration of why thoughtful, ethical, intercultural research is so incredibly critical. It has the potential to actually help people navigate these impossible situations.
So, how can research actually help in a situation like this? Well, it starts by asking the right questions before you do anything else. First, who's the client? You gotta know who's paying for the study and what their motives are. Second, understand the problem from their point of view. What do they think the issue is? Third, and this one is absolutely crucial, how can we make sure everyone involved benefits? How can the results help all the parties, not just the person who hired you? And finally, do your homework. What do we already know from past studies and from the community itself? Getting this groundwork right is essential if you want any hope of actually helping.
And that really brings us to the ultimate point here. The whole goal of studying intercultural communication isn't just about memorizing facts about different countries. It's about developing the ability to genuinely appreciate that other people are living in profoundly different realities, shaped by their own unique webs of meaning. It's about being humble and thoughtful in how we even try to understand them.
So, I'll leave you with a question to think about. What are the beliefs, the values, the shared understandings, all those invisible threads that make up the web of significance that you live in every single day? It's worth thinking about. Thanks for joining me.